This week on the Real Housewives of Potomac.
Stacey?
I don't know what
Is
you're
there something
talking
that you
about.
want to share? Yes.
So my homegirl told me that you reached out to her to try to get close to somebody.
Samuel's my friend. You were trying to date Chris Samuels?
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be recapping the new episode of the Real Housewives of Potomac, Season 10, Episode 4. Let's get right into it. This was another great episode. This season is coming. It's starting with a huge bam. I mean, from the very first episode to the second to the third and now the fourth one that we are getting that is just full of drama. Season 10 is great so far. I am really enjoying this season. I mean, they are bringing it as far as the drama. Let's get right into it because there's a lot to talk about. So we pick up right where we left off last week. The ladies are on the sprinter on their way to this event. And Kay just she still has this like nasty shade that she keeps throwing to Stacey. She just won't stop. And the thing is, it's not even fun shade. It's not funny. It's just mean-spirited. Like it doesn't even make any sense half of the time. But anyway, they get to the event. Preakness is what it's called. It's a fabulous event. Loved seeing the horses and everything. It looked it just looked really fun. So they make their way inside, and Kay gives them all a $20 bill. Which even as she's doing that, by the way, she's like being shady. She says to Stacey, "You're last." Okay. So then they take their little $20 bill and go bet on a horse. Except Stacey. She said she'd rather keep the $20. She honestly might be better off doing that anyway. So then as the ladies are going over there to bet on their horses for the race, Wendy and Gizelle stay back, just the two of them. Wendy then says to Gizelle, "Bring up my name to Angel, and she's going to be talking about me for 7 minutes." Gizelle says, "Well, y'all went to Temple, right? The same university?" And then here Wendy says, "I don't know her. I've never spoken to her." Which, I mean, no one said you did, not even Angel. Let's not do that whole thing again about I don't know her, because we had enough of that with you and Nneka, okay? We're not talking about you know her or not. But she says that she doesn't know her, which I think Angel agrees, because she's never said that she's known her either. But Wendy takes it an extra step by saying to Gizelle, "I heard she didn't even graduate." And then Gizelle like chuckles. And so now I just feel like they look like two mean, bitter girls talking about why didn't she graduate? Did something happen? Who cares if she didn't graduate? Because guess what? If she did or didn't graduate, she is now standing in the same platform that both of you are in. So whatever she did or didn't do is working out for her, I guess. All right, and then they head to the food. They had more food at this event. Even though I thought they just ate at Kay's house, but I'm not mad at it. I would have ate too. The food looked really good. So they got some food. Ashley was already hitting on some guy at the event. When they sit back down on the table, I really like that Stacey was trying to figure out what's happening. So she questions Ashley, "Are you still with Josh? What happened with him?" And she asks Gizelle, "Do you have a boyfriend? Are you single?" Neither one of them is honest, obviously, but I like that she kind of flipped the script because usually these two are the ones that are always asking all the damn questions. But now Stacey's the one asking, and good for her. Angel says that she has a man that she wants to introduce Gizelle to, and then here comes the drama. So do you guys remember in last week's episode when Wendy, Gizelle, Tia, and Angel went to that store, that clothing store? Well, what we didn't see on the episode last week is that when they were all at the store, Ashley called. She was on speaker. She called Gizelle. And on the phone call, Ashley invited Gizelle and Wendy only to go do something. So whenever Gizelle hung up, Tia said, "Well, that was rude." So now here at the table, Ashley says, "Well, Tia, I heard that you called me rude." So Tia says, "Oh, that was just tongue-in-cheek. You know, usually when you're not inviting other people, you don't invite them in front of the people who you're not inviting." I love the way she talks with her accent. So yeah, she says it was just tongue-in-cheek because she's right. If you're going to invite someone, you kind of just invite them, not have other people here who you're not inviting. And then Keiarna says, what's tongue-in-cheek? What does that mean? I was like, girl, you've never heard of tongue-in-cheek. Tia says, oh, tongue-in-cheek. It's when something's not that serious or deep and it kind of just rolls out off your tongue, down your tongue. And Kay's like, oh, like when I said chin check. And then Tia says, no, that's different. Chin check is aggressive. Tongue-in-cheek isn't. Then Ashley says to Tia, well, you shaded me. And I thought you said it was supposed to be tongue-in-cheek. And Tia says, no, I said that tongue-in-cheek is not shade. Keep up. And then Ashley says, well, sometimes tongue-in-cheek can be shady. I am keeping up. And then Tia says, Ashley, if I think you're rude, I will say it. So if I apologize and say that I didn't mean it, I've already spoken about it. I don't know why you're struggling with it. Ooh, she said, if I'm apologizing and you want to keep digging, then dig. But I'm not going to get dirty. Listen, I am so glad Tia can definitely speak up for herself. And the way she had it, I don't think Ashley expected it. But then she kind of jokes because she says, you know what, Ashley, I do have an issue with you because Gizelle told me that whenever I met you, you were going to fancy me, which I think it's like a British term for like flirting. So she was just being playful at that point. She kind of wanted to bring down the temperature. So then the beautiful Jazzy pulls up. She came with some other friends that she had there. So Jazzy is saying hi to all the ladies, the ones that she already knows, the new ones, sort of introducing herself. She gives the ladies an update. She's still with Darius. She's planning this wedding. He is currently in Dallas. I think that Angel wanted to bond with Jazzy over both of them having boyfriends/husbands that are or were football players. So Angel did ask her, what position does he play? And then, so Jazzy answers. Kay then asks Angel, what did he used to play? And Angel says, oh, well, he starred for 10 years. And I didn't like that the people at the table acted like that was a shady comment. I really did not think she said that trying to be shady. I honestly think it's just the way she said it. But it wasn't supposed to be a jab, like, oh, my husband was better than yours, Jazzy. It really, I don't think she meant it like that at all. But we're going to get more into that later on in the episode. Okay, so then they head out to go watch the race. Pretty fun. Ashley then approaches Kay and she says, hey, is everything okay with you and Jazzy? So the group is getting ready to talk about it, get into the drama. But then Wendy says, oh, wait, you guys, the First Lady of Maryland is here. Now, the First Lady did not want to be on camera, and the producers let us know that she refused to be on the show. She only said hi to Wendy and Gizelle for like a half a second. That was pretty much it. This lady said, I don't want to be associated with them. But then they go back to discuss the issue. So Kay says that she heard that Jazzy and Stacey both had a problem with her. Now, this was communicated through Wendy. And Wendy said this to Kay. So then Jazzy's like, oh, Wendy was just being messy. And they could have just ended it there. But Kay, I don't know if she was drunk or she had too much to drink, but she was being very passive aggressive with the digs and the comments. So Jazzy says, listen, Kay, I know you're going through a lot with Greg, but don't take it out on me. And Keiarna did not handle this well. She hit Jazzy back even harder and said, don't speak about my situation when you're the one marrying a man with 2 kids, with 2 different mothers. The group thought Kay went pretty low. I mean, especially when kids are invoked. But yeah, that got pretty heated real quick. And Jazzy ended up walking away. And she was saying, I would be upset too if all I got was a condo, which he didn't even pay for. Listen, it got heated, but I will say Jazzy won. But anyway, as Jazzy is leaving, Tia asks Gizelle if Jazzy is going to be going on the trip with them. Kay says, yeah, no, please, no, it's a no for me. And Angel says to Gizelle, I think you should invite Charrisse, I really like her. So then that was pretty much it for the Preakness event. So then it is the next day. The women have packed up and they arrive to the airport to go on their Neas trip. Now Jazzy ended up going. She is going on the trip. So they all got on the plane. Everybody got first class except Jazzy. I was like, damn, she was not in first class. I do think it's pretty interesting that the ladies went on an international trip, because usually for the first trip of the season, not just with Potomac, but with other housewives, they normally end up doing a domestic trip and then they go on their international trip later on in the season. But this season in Potomac, they're going on an international trip. So that's pretty cool. I'm happy for them. Now, it was a little bit embarrassing because the ladies, they got off and they were waiting to, once they arrived at on Neas, they were going to go, to where they needed to go after that. And they had to wait a long time for Jazzy to get off and join them because, again, she didn't fly with them on the same section. But you know what? At least she made it. So when they make it to the island, Gizelle tells them that they will be going on a yacht and then they will be staying at the Four Seasons. Ashley does ask if anyone wants to set like any intentions or has any goals for the trip. And Angel says, yes, I do. I really want you all to get to know me at in a deeper level. Stacey in her confessional mentioned that she tried to give Angel a warm welcome. She didn't really felt like Angel had fully accepted it, but she thinks that might be because of Kay. And I do hope that Angel doesn't close herself on certain friendships because of Keiarna, because that would make her that wouldn't do her any favors, Also, Angel had a problem in immigrations and customs because she brought a bag or something with camouflage, and apparently that's not allowed. Now what is wrong with camouflage? What is the issue with that? But apparently it's not allowed. But thank God Tia ended up coming to the rescue because she had some space on her bag, so she put Angel's bag inside of hers to kind of cover it up. So then the ladies get on a boat that will be taking them to the Four Seasons. I'm telling you, this was a very good trip. I mean, you're taking a yacht to take you to the Four Seasons. I like that. So they're opening up champagne and everything. So then Jazzy says, let's celebrate. We're going to celebrate that, I'm getting married. We're celebrating that yesterday was Wendy's birthday. And let's celebrate that we have new ladies here. Gizelle says, yeah, new ladies that didn't want you to come. So everybody's like, what? Who didn't want her to come? Gizelle says, well, I invited Jazzy, but some of the girls, Angel, didn't want her to be invited. And then Angel's like, what? When? And then Gizelle says, yeah, you told me not to bring her in, that I should bring Charrisse instead. And then Angel's like, oh, yeah, I mean, I did say to bring Charrisse, but I don't remember saying don't bring Jazzy. So here's the thing, you guys. Based on what we saw, unless there was a different conversation, but based on what we saw in the scene, Gizelle is lying, okay? Angel did not say don't bring Jazzy. She did say bring Charrisse. I like her, but she didn't say don't bring Jazzy. Jazzy says, well, Angel, was there a certain energy of mine that, you didn't like? Or, what was it? Why didn't you want me here? And then Angel's like, yeah, I mean, I really don't remember saying that. So then Kay jumps in there and says, well, my issue with Jazzy is that I'm not phony and fake. And then Jazzy says, well, if you're not fake, say what you said about Wendy. So now everybody's like, what did she say about Wendy? What did Kay say about Wendy? And then Wendy asks Jazzy, wait a minute, she said something to you about me? And Jazzy's like, yeah. So then Wendy says, was it recently or was it a while ago? And Jazzy says, it was about 6 months ago. Oh. But the thing is, though, this is what really bothered me about Jazzy. Jazzy didn't say what Keiarna supposedly said. And even in her confessional, the producer tried to ask her and, get it out of her. What was it that she supposedly said? But Jazzy didn't want to tell us. So what good is it to say, oh, she said something, but you don't want to tell us? Leave it in the playground if you're not going to, just keep it real. But anyway, the thing is that now Wendy says to Kay, based on what Jazzy just told me and based on the timeline she's giving me, it makes me realize that you were talking about me a long time ago. And then as Wendy and Kay are trying to talk, Kay is still throwing digs at Jazzy, saying, she's not even here. She's a sidekick. She's a side piece, side chick. And then Jazzy says, no, I'm a fiance, something that you will never be. I'm telling y'all, Jazzy was dragging Kay. Kay was trying to come at her, but then Jazzy came with the bigger nuke. I mean, it was a lot. Jazzy says, well, Angel, are you and I okay? And Angel says, yes. Then here goes messy Miserable Wendy. She's like, well, Angel, at Preakness, you were throwing shade about your husband starring for 10 years as a football player. And then Angel says, what is this with trying to misunderstand me? I asked Jazzy what position her husband played, and then Kay asked me what position did my husband play. So I answered it and I explained it. It wasn't any dig or anything, which, like I said earlier in the recap, I agree. I don't think it was messy. Now, in her confessional, I will say she was messy. She did say something about wags, which is like wives and girlfriends of football players, being at a different level. So that was definitely shady. But as far as what she said, I don't think was shady. I think Wendy's trying to make an issue. Stacey then asks Angel, do you have it in your heart to have friendships with people who may not enjoy Kay? And then Angel says, yes, I do. Like, you guys will get to know me. So then they finally arrived to the resort, and you guys, it was beautiful. I mean, the water, the trees. I need to be there right now. They really outdid themselves with this trip. Gizelle will be in a villa with Ashley. Tia will be in some place called the Nanny Quarter, which Gizelle says because she's British, it reminded her of that. Okay. The other villa will have Wendy and Stacey and Jazzy, the three of them. Kay and Angel will have their own villa. So they all go to their places to relax, freshen up, settle in. What I will say I thought was a really nice touch at first was that Gizelle hand wrote personal letters to each of the women with a beautiful message dedicated to each one, and also robes and bags that had their names on them to all of the women except Stacey. So you can imagine Stacey seeing everybody have their little cards, their little robes and everything, and all of a sudden she gets to hers and it's a card that's blank and a robe in a bag with no name, no embroidery. That is so mean. Gizelle, what has Stacey done to you, lady, for you to be trying to do this? And now part of me thinks that the only reason you even wrote the letters to the other ones was so that you could exclude Stacey. I can't. But anyway, you guys, we are only 4 episodes in, but we are already seeing very noticeable dynamics in the group. So in this point in time, it really feels like Angel and Kay are on an island all by themselves, and then the rest of the group is on another one. It really does feel like that. And I don't know if it'll change, but because even when they were on the yacht, everybody was dancing, they had music, and the only ones sitting down were Kay and Angel. So we'll see how if that changes, because as of now, it kind of looks like it's them against everybody else. I really enjoyed, so they're in their rooms doing their thing. I really enjoyed Tia calling her kids. She was checking in on them. She said it was one of her son's birthday. Apparently her son had said that he wanted to be adopted to have a different family, and Tia's like, why would you say that? I thought it was so cute and really funny. Funny in the sense that I even noticed this in last week's episode. Her kids, Tia's kids, really have zero clue that there's any cameras. They're just so real, and I really enjoy that. Okay, so then later they finally head over to dinner. They order, and then Stacey asks Kay, she says, Kay, I have a question. I don't know because you don't talk to me, but are you and Greg back together? And Kay says, yes, I am. They somehow bring up Angel again and her getting to know people. Angel has to again explain that she is getting to know them. She is slowly opening up, she says. She doesn't talk a lot, but that's just how she is. When she doesn't really know people, she doesn't talk a lot right away. She kind of has to get to warm up to people and get to know them, but she's getting to that. Tia then says, well, I feel like I rarely ever see you two speak, and she's pointing at Wendy and Angel. And then Stacey's like, well, yeah, things ended pretty bad back at Kay's lunch with them. And Angel's like, yeah, I felt attacked. She felt attacked. Wendy says, well, I only asked you a question. And Angel's like, yeah, but I feel like the energy behind that question, you just feel like attacked. So then Wendy says, you like to use certain words to weaponize and villainize me. And by the way, a lot of us have noticed that your energy feels like you don't even want to be around us or get to know us. Gizelle says, well, do you? Do you want to get to know us? And then Angel says, yes, I do. And I'm going to be vulnerable. It's just really hard for me to get to know people and start having a relationship with them right away. And then you guys, out of nowhere, Gizelle says, can we talk about social media? So she says that she has been looking at pictures with Tia and Angel. And she says that when she first saw the pictures, she said, oh, look, it's Tia and another woman. And she's been trying to figure out who that woman is. She says, and then I was told it was you, Angel, and I did not know that was you on these pictures. And then a bunch of the girls start to laugh, like mean girls. Anyway, Gizelle says, I felt like I was being catfished. I don't know who that person is. And then Angel says, well, that particular picture is not filtered. It's a picture that I took a while ago. And then Tia says, yeah, y'all have to remember she had a baby about 19 months ago. Angel says, yeah, that picture is not filtered. Gizelle says, it's not filtered? That's not you. Angel says, it is. Gizelle says, I've gone on your page and none of the pictures there look like the woman that's right here sitting in front of me. In her confessional, Angel does say, to say that I would edit a picture to look completely unlike myself is really taking it to another level. And for the girls who sat at the table laughing their butts off, they're some of the same ones who were so insecure about their appearance who had to run to the operating table to make themselves look like a permanent Instagram filter. Damn! Boom, drop the mic. Now let me say this. Does Angel look very different in her pictures? She does. I mean, look, come on. She does look different. But I just feel like the way Gizelle brought it up and all the other ones laughing, I didn't like that. It felt really mean. Felt like season 5 Gizelle. Then Wendy says, look at the way that she is speaking to Gizelle, who's making fun of her and her pictures. But when it comes to me, she uses a completely different tone. And then she says, she's straight up says to Angel, it's now been noticed that you have different energy when it comes to me, which is a good point. I understand what Wendy's saying. She's saying Angel has no issue coming very hard at me. But right now, look at Gizelle, who's literally ridiculing her. And Angel doesn't really have all that smoke for her, which I think it's fair. Totally fair for her to bring up. So I will not, say anything against that. But Wendy also says that she thought it was very telling that when they were at Kay's condo and Kay said to Angel, do you like this woman? Talking about Wendy. Wendy thinks this proves that both of them have been talking about her for some time. So then Wendy switches the topic about the robes and the cards that they got from Gizelle and how Stacey didn't get one. Stacey says, I thought it was odd that my card was blank. And then Gizelle says, well, you were not even supposed to get a card because I don't even know who you are. It's symbolic. Like, I'm confused with you. And then Stacey says, you hold this certain standard about when it comes to me and like wanting to like hold me accountable, and you always want to talk about me and my relationship. Why don't we talk about your relationship, Gizelle? So then Stacey pulls out that picture and she says, let's talk about your man. His name is Sean Spriggs and he played in the NFL, and the streets are saying that he's your boyfriend. So they ask Ashley about him, and Ashley says that yeah, she met him at a party and he was wearing nice clothes and he took Gizelle on some dates. And Gizelle says, yeah, and I'm still dating him, but we're just going on dates though, that's it. Ashley then says, how many of you all have gone on a date with an NFL player? Raise your hand. And then she says to Stacey, are you not raising your hand? Why are you on your phone? And then Stacey says, I don't know what you're talking about. Ashley says, well, my homegirl told me that you reached out to her to try to hook up with Chris Samuels. Now, she didn't say Chris Samuels. She was being all dramatic about it. She was like, with somebody that played for the Redskins, for somebody that did this, and that we all know. And then she finally said Chris Samuels, and everybody was screaming. Wendy was screaming, and everybody was shocked. But that was where the episode ended. Woo! Listen, you guys, this was a really good episode, like I said, from the very beginning all the way to the very end. It was just drama. And I really I'm enjoying the trip. I think it's very luxurious, which I think is great. Now, just to kind of put it all in a nutshell, I think that Keiarna is coming across way too desperate, and she's coming across way too thirsty with all of these beefs, because they kind of feel like non-existent. Like they only exist on her side. You know, they feel really one-sided, especially like with Jazzy. Like it just doesn't make any sense, Keiarna. You need to settle down, take it down a notch. It's not doing you any favors at all. Wendy and Gizelle, them two being together, I can't stand it, you guys. I think that they are worse than Gizelle and Robyn, because Robyn was kind of just there. She didn't really whatever, but Wendy and Gizelle together is a whole other type of meanness, in my opinion. And then when it comes to Angel, I'm just gonna put it out there, I am an Angel defender. Okay, now do I think she's got to work on some stuff? Yes, I do. Girl, we got to admit that we use some filters on the pictures because we can see it. But all of this hazing is a little bit too much. And I feel like if Candiace was still on the show, I feel like she would have Angel's back for sure. But I'm going to keep on defending Angel because I think they're doing a little bit too much. A little bit too much. And then this whole Chris Samuels thing, I don't believe anything Ashley says. But we'll have to wait till next week to see what Stacey's reaction and what she'll answer for this. But yeah, you guys, this was this week's episode. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. See y'all next time. Bye.